Alright, that's that's Sanje, the Chue, and Gili, Nayundi, Ne Sanje, Guzon to Suyin, the Chilean, the Yiva, those shoes, such a in Ma, in Shuadi, kissing the something bad.
Good evening. So last time we continued to look at the many incredible qualities of the Buddha jewel expressed through the Buddha's body, speech, mind, and we came to look at the final quality in this presentation, that of the enlightened activities of the Buddha. So this is as far as we've come thus far in the presentation on refuge.
That's someday. Chene degi shede dada yudugi ne yudugi de zugi tu zugi Ale didn't ma didn't slides in the and dinner on the gangdilla. Then Chidig you took to me, the took Chique said, San Yi Sung Reso Borne, Ranshi Jig taught to joy in Song, Demata, Nyamgawa, Jisam, Chua Mimbai, Yinando Lone, Shidu, Dana Shindu, Daur Nango said. It says also. Digne de sans ici quand de chez ni soumis en tuer ça. Qu'est-ce que c'est slide.
So returning to the text, and we'll conclude the quotation from Geshe Thubten Rabten. So in the published book, it's the last sentence on page 105. In the handout, it will be at the bottom of page 123. Yeah, in the handouts, bottom of page 123. To claim the teachings say that, but to claim the teachings say that, but owing to present circumstances, I cannot do it right now, so I must do this instead, is to ignore the Buddha's advice and proceed on the basis of your own discernment. And Lama Tsongkhapa comments, and I'll just skip out the first bit, if we turn our mind inward and examine carefully, we will recognize that it is so true that our normal attitude, one of trusting others' mere words and being content without discernment, is nothing but delusion.
And another was San Yi kissing that the Kishpoto Carosonsine, the San Yi that Chiglumba de la Mota and the Mosivu yourself, Chiki or Tiron Dalo and the Chiki Kanaka, Chesa Barshon Samari, and also Lodi Ushu Chigores. And Tiron Dalo Barshon, the chef in Ditucos, that Chochin and Udaba that's in a position the chef in to get to Chugores. Ichigore in a Dang Sanji Sun Shabatilla, December of the Chitu Marashiri. The Mituba Harasina in Chene, the gay shade, the Dang to Garsam, Chile in a soon your days or soon your dinner, that my duty lagged time in the Chitu Samar, that you do too. And they took Mitup setting a Jetu Samar, Jetu Samar, Genu Samar, Yon Samaras and Tushin Jagores. She said, Dinige Sanji Sun race. Sanji Sung Resu born said, Chisan Sanji Sung di Zimage Yawachi, Sungu Dilla, Jera Mazio Shasha, no Sosugi, Ranshi, Jigi, Toto Juain, Sosugi Devache, and Dushin to war a Chigo Essage in Sunda. The Dala did a Sanji challenge, Dusun Yaman Geo, Digo Pongo, Geo, Dubers, Yamage Sunsha Gudi, Gabriela, or that deneging I disagree to say to the Tangaman. Naji to Sama didn't a Jag Nuga Minusa, do send another Sanje Sunsha Gudi, kudusen nangmechin shara zihurma che shagore esen.
So I'll just read part of that again. To claim the teachings say that, but owing to present circumstances, I cannot do it right now, so I must do this instead, is to ignore the Buddha's advice and proceed on the basis of your own discernment. So I'll just repeat a little bit of the context that we covered last week when we were covering the rest of the quotation from Geshe Thubten Rabten, which is that if we receive advice from a renowned fortune teller, so someone that we have trust in, hence we've sought out their advice, we will embrace that advice, follow it diligently, immediately, and precisely, exactly as received. And if for whatever reason we cannot do so, we will strive to overcome such reason because we'll feel uncomfortable, as if we are letting ourselves down by not following the advice of this fortune teller in whom we have trust. But this is not the same attitude we bring to the teachings. Here, the teachings are the very advice from the perfect Buddha. But we don't take it as such. We don't receive it as, this is personal advice of how I must live my life from now, the minds I need to cultivate and have dominate, have define me from this moment forth. We don't take the teachings in that way. Rather, the many reasons that appear in our mind as to, well, right now, this is more important. Well, this period of my life, that is more important. Those reasons we embrace. And the teachings, we leave them aside. And in this way, procrastination, delay, waiting for better days that never come. This is how we tend to approach the Dharma teachings. This is what we're being warned against.
That in mata nyam gawa samla true member secretary that mata shimju maje baji samla and lodiwo shi as nyam gawa so lodiwo so the shikarasana mo yen the choron dalo and the choron chike na pashe da kai umare se 60 like the 60 some daje so that lodiwo shi tewena nyam gawa so the lodiwo tena and jigyo mare se and the nigi samla true the nigi samla nyam magawa che the nigi machu samata che machu ba che and dandala yi na do lo ne sem na le ba sam da che ship to da she wo le da su che ba na che sa da an ju ge a ju ge le nyomo to su myo le nyomo to su myo ba na nyomo to su yong ge da me ji ge da de la gang a de ti be chen ge wa chi ma de wa yong go ya de de cha go ji sa san yi ge sung di bo pong ge o tu nyam ne che se song che ba de ya ngo ne ra da na xu de da ha wa xim xim ju ya wo che ban xin de da wa na ji se san yi song ba den den ngo ne ra den ba le xia sa chi xin de da se de da se den ba se wo da ngo ne ra den ba le xia sa che sa san yi gi ga se nyom mo pang go re nyom mo be ong gi ti bo yu ni nga zhe le sa di ge tung ka nga yu re ji nyom mo pang go re nyom mo pa ya le ya sim gun ju song na je so de ne ane ji ge san yi yun de ni ba da de le ya ane gyam de ge je go re so ya di ngo ne ra den ba le xia se wo 십소제 심주 제바이나 십소제 심주 맞제바이나 고모다한테 결혼 달은 결혼을 바시 말하는 너디 보시 두고 봐. 제가 되는 게 로디야요 말지 심주제 셈 삼는 나로 삼다 심주 제바이나 되네 산유 손바디 덴바래 해야지. 십수마다나 로디 보라 두고 봐. 근데 뭐제 결혼 달로 주분 바시 용고만 강한 책 말을 합시면 그 CD 되고라 되는 아주 어다 그 쉐바의 인샤라지 덴바치로 되고 있으나 되는 바시 강한 뭐 용수요라지 제가 되는 게 로마되어지 될이야 이마치 아니야 강한 용고에서 강한 용다다 십소부 심주지 제바 있나 아주 녀모도 숨요래 녀모도 숨요 봐자 니기 견제네 아주 바치 체들이네 동하다 아야 예바래 니기 견제네 직니 레사 랭암병한 마손도야지 차고로 봐 디네자 산예기 손셰베 랍제디 뭐네라 디버뽕 개와 죽고 세디 죽다 손에 덴방원에 레샤세지 어디 하고 그래서 다오라는 신도 다오라 나고 뭐네라 덴바임 받아 하고 그래서
Lama Tsongkhapa then concludes or follows this quotation by stating, I'll just skip out the first few words because they're not in the Tibetan. If we turn our mind inward and examine carefully, we will recognize that it is so true that our normal attitude, one of trusting others' mere words and being content without discernment, is nothing but delusion. Unfortunately, what Potawai said was not only relevant at the time that he stated this many hundreds of years ago, but it is still the case for most of us today. That if we have problems, we look for solutions in areas which potentially can lead to temporary respite. We don't look to the Dharma, which can lead to a final eradication of our problems. Moreover, if we go to someone whose advice we trust, and they tell us, there's nothing to worry about, everything is going well, we relax. Or alternatively, we superficially examine our conditions and say, our life right now is okay. And we relax, thinking that now everything is good. And all that this shows is we are not relying on the Dharma in the sense of using the teachings we've received to analyze our own mind, and analyze our own mind from the perspective of the Dharma. Because this is where the solutions, when our life is difficult, this is where the solutions are to be found. By transforming our mind in accordance with the Dharma teachings, our problems and difficulties are no longer experienced as such. And moreover, when our life is good, we'll recognize this now is the opportunity to embrace the teachings, to embark on wholehearted study and contemplation, because I don't have major obstacles in my life right now. But all too often, though, we fall under the delusion that comes from a lack of discernment. In other words, a lack of analysis, a lack of thinking for ourselves. And this leads to complacency. But when we challenge ourselves, as you will be doing right now, recognize this incredible opportunity that comes with this life is finite. And I have no certainty as to when it will end. Moreover, I have no certainty as to where my next rebirth will be or what those circumstances will be. I have no idea of how difficult it will be to reconnect with the path in my very next life. Thinking like that, in the way that has been meditated on prior, should stir us to look to the Dharma for solutions, not just when times are challenging, but also when our life is going well.
Sangye Yende Yang Samla Ning Tapa Neba Jidong La BDS, Dechuna, Dele Jun, Chedang, Chedi to be Gidin, Layang, Neba Dedan Java, Reone, Yabron Nido Jolas.
Then Lama Tsongkhapa continues with this conclusion with insistent advice to achieve certainty. I've just added one word in the first sentence in the second line. Therefore, think about the Buddha's excellent qualities again and again and try to gain as much heartfelt certainty as possible. Once that develops, you will have arrived at the main point of going for refuge. For a similar certainty will arise concerning the Dharma received from him and from the Sangha of those accomplishing that Dharma.
That Gimjens did Ganglia, Dena said it Gangi Gimjens or Sanyi, Ukaso Kusun Tusun Yundi, Lucine, Jangu research. The Niki Tempa Ina, and the Sanyi Yundi Yang, Samla Nintapa Neva, Neva Jidong La Bella, Lucine, Sanyi Diniki Ganglia to Jehu said, take some Dangure said, Guyunda, Songi, and the 2 Yundi, and 2 Kimbe Yundi. And the Tilly in the Dush and some down on Sumba Najin, the Negina, Desada, dine samtabene sanyi yunde yang samla, sanyi yi kusung tusu yunde di, kujane yang du sin yumzen samda yang samgu res. Dine sambayne, dine ning tabane sim dine sanyi yi kusung tu yunde tong yudu, oda sim dingi ngeba jidron la bes, dine ki ngeba tenbu shu ye le ya, bezu che go res oda. Daga je le, kaje sanyi yi dunga tabje le gyöbu nyuba de sanyi yore se nga tukisi yabzho le du shi du kapda ta yubi kimzha gu yun da sung yun da tu yun da na tu yi kembe yun da tu tse yun da du samda yane yane samda yun ane ngeba jikbu dene ki yun den dike tong yun da sanyi le ya deba tenbu shi ligi le es ngeba jik tesa dene ki ngeba tenbu yun ya le ya bezu ye che che ane sanyi yun den dike yane yadu samgu yesa shimu yane yadu ning tapane du samje ngeba jiro le be des ngeba timbu yaya ge donda la ya du sine yane yadu samdangu yesa.
So this paragraph here contains insistent advice from Lama Tsongkhapa to us, where he starts saying, therefore. So this word, therefore, should trigger us to recognize that this is a word that is that should lead us to recall the reasons that have just been presented. So it could be expressed as independent on all these reasons. Think about the Buddha's excellent qualities again and again. So here, Lama Tsongkhapa is giving us insistent advice to reflect repeatedly over a sustained period on the good qualities of the Buddha's body, of the Buddha's speech, of the Buddha's mind in terms of his exalted knowing, as well as his compassion, as well as then reflect on his enlightened activities, and reflect on these excellent qualities again and again in order to give rise to heartfelt certainty. This is the measure of attaining of our refuge in the Buddha, is when our certainty is deep from within. Then we know that that refuge has arisen in our hearts. Then we will be open and receptive to the guidance of the Buddha, taking it all as personal instruction. So this is what Lama Tsongkhapa is giving us insistent advice to achieve.
And de juna si de nige sanje ya yun den de tong che nge ba den bu chi ge ba yin na so juna de gang le chu chue dang chue de tu bi ge den la yang nge ba de dang dao re won we jiao zhe ni de zhuo la si de zhe san de ne da de sanje yi song xie bi chue nyam len che ba la de ne ju wi ge da chue gong chu la ye a da nge ba den bu yong tu re ani de chue de nyamlen sanje song xie bi chue de nyamlen ji ne go de na lam de nyamlen ji gu la ji de ge dun de ge de tu be se de nyamlen ji de ge pa be ge dun ba de so la ya ne ji ye ba de bu chi ge ku re es yu o es je sa de ne za de ne yo de ne gon jo sum la ge su de be jam de be ne du zhuo la su be yang hu xiu cha go de je.
The next two sentences in the Tibetan are in the opposite order from the English. The translation's fine, just for some reason. They've been put in a different order. So I'll read it, the English as it appears in the Tibetan. For a similar certainty will arise concerning the Dharma received from him and from the Sangha of those accomplishing the Dharma. The meaning is quite clear. One will, having developed heartfelt certainty in the Buddha, then one will be open and receptive to the Dharma that he taught, which is the very Dharma that he has realized, and the very Dharma that led to his attainment of enlightenment. And from this, then, we will have a deep trust in the Sangha as well, those accomplished practitioners who are cultivating the Dharma within them. In the next sentence, once that develops, you all have arrived at the main point of going for refuge.
And the negi nemini lamshen dasho gyosu zhuwa yang yi kuwa wansame sidi. Chisa the negi konjo sumna gyosu zhuwa gyamdwa yakwachi majungwa ina, ane sida lamshen dasho sidi lam cholam na jolang tonglang kumlam sayadi, yede pasu sayadi, disu gyune jitu mare, disu magiwa mase, jamro de ya ku ji go ma jab su zhuo yi ku a chuo me do si san jamro yue ba na jamro be ji assembly ya yi ku a su de da tembu nge ba tembu shu ji da del ya jab su zhuo ba na di da jing an zu ko yue dong la da ta tu gre san bi ge ta yue ba de yi ku a ji de tu ma le yi ku a lan be assembly dingi ane nge ba nye ba sa chu ko
Lama Tsongkhapa concludes this insistent pleading with us with the final sentence. There is no way that going for refuge or taming the mind, let alone other paths, will occur without it. So without having heartfelt trust in the Buddha, and a trust that is certain, this word certain can also be translated as definite. So where one has a definite heartfelt trust in the Buddha, and therefore in his teachings, the Dharma, and in his highly developed practitioners, the Sangha. Without that, it will not be possible to attain paths of accumulation, preparation, seeing, and meditation. That will not be possible, let alone taming the mind.
Sangye la nguba gyusen de jede sa sangye la ya ngubi gyumsen jede cheda yun kasa sangye yenden taye ba chen dini ngdo gyu chu goba da lam ye denba gyun bawa da yenden jube danyi chen undo jebe gomba le junwa wos nyemdo jembar jade dini che yang da bu dube den osa.
So this way we see how going for refuge really is a foundational training, the basis in which all good qualities will come. Now, to the second jewel, the excellent qualities of the Dharma. Out of respect for the Buddha, you should recollect as follows. The Buddha's limitless excellent qualities arose from his meditating on and actualizing the Dharma of scriptures and realizations, true cessations and true paths, the epitome of the elimination of faults and the achievement of excellent qualities. This is the intention of the Compendium of Teachings Sutra.
Zana sangye le guba yusin de jide sidi de jinye le ya na sheba jiba sangye yi da ko sung tu yuan de qinle yuan de du samdan de sangye be ma sida sangye le ya deba ba don ji denbo shu ge de yumzen tong ge de da sangye le guba yumzen je de an di enza da ga le sene sangye yuan den taye ba jen sidi da long do se de da sangye yi sangye ne sa korong de ne za korong ki chue dian chue yu kolo gor ji wa da chue yu kolo gor ji ane di chue yu kolo gor di je so nyam zu lem yo du lam den nyam zu lem ba la de ne ane de chue ta ye ba jen di ni long do ge chue se da long se du chue yu kolo gor se wa den chue yu kolo gor da chue yu kolo gor ne da di lo ma nam ji nyam zu len je nyam ne je du lam den gyu la ki bi to bi nyam ba 파 빵비 꼭된디게 통하다 최고조 이디 고바다 남디 최고조 균 빵와다 균 빵비 빵바 꼭된당 아니 남디 주비기 연전 주비 다니제 문도 제바당 제디네 가서 꼭된 문도 제 투구를 했으면지 진이 최고조당 꼭된이디 당은 중에 도스냠는 제바 이나 제 투구를 했으면 이제디 연구를 했디 가서는 dine gombale dine dinyamzu lembale dine ane nyomba pambe pamba kokdente le tugure sate de ko kasore chekoncha de la ane dine ki ngaba den dimbu jeba de yongo reje.
Out of respect for the Buddha. So out of respect for the Buddha refers to the respect that has arisen independence on the prior meditations on the Buddha jewel's incredible qualities of body, speech, mind, and enlightened activities. So it's through those reflections that one has engaged in again and again. that one has developed a sincere and heartfelt respect for the Buddha, then one continues to reflect as follows. The Buddha's limitless excellent qualities, which is all that one has been reflecting on, arose from his meditating on and actualizing the Dharma of the scriptures. The Dharma of scriptures is what the Buddha taught. So when the Buddha turned the wheel of Dharma, this expression expresses his years of teaching the Dharma. These Dharma teachings are the scriptural teachings from the Buddha. And then this text continues, and realization. Realization is what is gained by those who put aside all that's unimportant and embrace what is. This is what the Buddha himself did, giving rise to realization and transformation within himself, as well as all the Arya beings and other great practitioners. They have given rise to the realized teachings, with the scriptural teachings being the teachings of the Buddha, and the realizations that follow from that being the realized teachings, the Dharma that is realized and within the continuum of the great practitioners. And so what are these realizations? The true cessations and true paths, the epitome of the elimination of faults and the achievement of excellent qualities. To express that in the way that we usually present the teachings, the abandonment of the afflictions together with the seeds. This leads to the attainment of true cessations, and it's done through true paths. So this and the true paths are these excellent qualities as well as true cessations. So the true cessations is the mark of the elimination of faults. The true paths are the achievement of excellent qualities. And this is the very personification of the Dharma that has arisen perfectly, completely in the mind of the Buddha, and is being perfectly and completely arisen in the mind of accomplished practitioners.
ane jesa dang an chu konjo le kyapsu dui bi jep sro du san chu konjo koten da lamdin nyamsu lemba le tin nyam koten de rang gyula nyom ba pangbe nyang de koten de rang gyula ki yodu khowa le thada le drugri se bi yiche jirwa jesa da dinigi 상기 유구송 투수미 연된디 파도 제 심주제 제여도 다 디니기 연된디 통해도 하고요도 아니 가르 셈도 갈리 그랬으네 디네 상기 유송비기 최대 냠수 렘발에 되네 소수기 지다와신도 곰 냠는 제바이나 디네 고텐다 람딘 귤레게 디네 고텐데 심바리 뭐기네 디네 뇽모 빵베 고텐 타르바데랑 귤레게 투그리 셈베게다 이시기 이그리에서 다디르다 이치기리에서 도스체네 삼당에 냠도 템벌 자오 디네 젠고레스 딘 템벌네 베 토그리 당이디 남 산지교 숭비게 디 남서 냠는 제바이나 람덴다 고팅 이글기 투브레 메디 뭐 근데고 람덴다 고팅 이글기 투브레 셈베게다 데네기 이체바드 사올다 가브리엘은 아주 어때 손데 냠는 제나 디게 투브 유나면나 셈베게 노바다 다이 에이다 지다기는 에이게 에이 냠는 제네게 투브 아예 셈베게 데네 도바 용구로와 제사 데네게 산지 유구송 투소 연데니 파 냠는 제 심주제 제바자 하고에도 산예리야 네바 딩기 네바 잡수드비 점도 지어도 디니 최고권자들이 상이 송비 송제베 저 룽기 최고들이야 롭종제 냠는 제도 디니 또봐 아니 고텐다 람딘 이데는 줄기 투그리 셈베기 이체디 용그리에스 이 권발의 중화 딩 냠술렘바지 권바 있나 이 중그리 셈베기다 이체디 템플리 투그리에스 디엔자 디니게 장고를 디상고에서 디 템바이네 템바 야고 칠레바 템부 칠레바인다 최고권자라 아니 안디레다 잡수드와디 템부주하디 산지 권자라 귀비 김선진의 최고권자라 잡수드와디 야고 용구에서 디레
To put what's presented here simply, the Dharma jewel is true cessations and true paths. And it's through cultivation of true paths that true cessations are attained. So this we need to reflect on to develop a deep trust that this is how I too can gain freedom. If I train in the way that I'm guided, I will abandon the afflictions together with their seeds, and therefore, thereby attain true paths and true cessations, cultivate the Dharma jewel within. And in this way, even I too will achieve liberation from the sufferings of samsara. So this needs to be reflected on to the point that so the normal word is, the word is doubt, but it's better understood as hesitation. All hesitation is eradicated. Hesitation is experienced as procrastination, reasons to delay, reasons not to apply ourselves to the teachings in a heartfelt and consistent way. To overcome this procrastination, we need to overcome our hesitation towards the validity of the presentation on the three jewels. Because by reflecting well on the result of cultivating the Dharma jewel, for example, the Buddha jewel, we will recognize, I can do this too. And we need to have that recognition be heartfelt in the sense that there is a stable determination to set aside all that's unimportant and to embrace what truly has meaning. So this is how we can radically transform our life, focus on cultivating the qualities of the Dharma within, and give rise to a steady determination to train our mind in the Dharma. Lama Tsongkhapa concludes by presenting his source, and his source is from the Buddha himself. This is the intention of the compendium of the teachings sutra. So once again, the reason for presenting the sources is so that we can have confidence. Lama Tsongkhapa is not merely presenting what he believes, but he's showing that it comes from a valid source.
다 게딩고 절라 겹수로다 just 상기를 구비 김제진의 최고권을 겹수로다 다 상기를 구비 김제네 게딩고 절라 겹수로야 돼 연구를 SD가 됐으네 순반이 소 파베 강사는 밀라 내야 취기 연된 전데 디 수준의 주변권에 전발을 제대 최양다 버디비 되노스.
So in the same way that through cultivating deep and heartfelt faith in the Buddha, one gives rise to deep and heartfelt faith in the Dharma jewel, so too, by giving rise to deep and heartfelt faith in the Buddha jewel, one will also give rise to deep and heartfelt faith in the Sangha jewel. So here, Lama Tsongkhapa continues. This refers mainly to persons who are Aryas. Recollecting the excellent qualities of the Dharma, you are mindful of those who accomplish it correctly. That is the intention of the compendium of the teaching sutra.
남인라 조디기 냠내 조디 파베 가사 디게레스 제산다 파베 가사 대양 파베 대양 취기 연된 젠디에스도 콘조야 아니 디니게 취기 연데레스는 취 람데나 곡된 냠렌제 코로즈 젠디 코로즈 취신도 냠스 링고레 취신도 주비고네 젠발 제디 코로즈기 디니 냠스 링고레 콘조 냠렌 람데 귤레게 아니 곡된 냠고스 귤레게 냠스 링고레 에세비 두시네 취신 주변권에 콘스티튜 제거했으면 두스 제어도 근데 얘네 기준 거 줄이야 아니 그 조치야야 아니 즉 만화와 마주 된든지 투레에서 내가 이치 내가 되기래서 그래서 그런 저 합조 상위 손셔바디 최인념는지 조다 cholam cholam tholam komlam yebe nani dine zo pabe gasa dikiri nyamne zo konjugi denji ma songosum to aje nyamne jiga zo re desa di konjugi la ani chugi chökonjo lamne gyule ge sarwa din zo ko tin gyule ge yore din za dine zada dine ge pabe ki dun de yang zulya nyamne chelo ro chebal ya ne denden le machuwa manova 제투에 된데 레세비다 이치디 용거리에서 대하다 최하다 버티베 되노 세드 되니 권에 잼버 제디 두스네 삼나 두스 잼고 삼나 두스 삼당고레 디 안다 땅고에 돼 고에데 최하다 버티베 되세드 네 최하다 버티베 되나로 손셔버 된다 디리에서
Lama Tsongkhapa starts when writing about the excellent qualities of the Sangha jewel, that this refers mainly to persons who are Aryas. Aryas are those who have realized emptiness directly, so the great practitioners of the Dharma, those who have attained the Dharma jewel within the true paths and true cessations, those who are abiding on the path of seeing or the path of meditation. This is how we should primarily think of the Sangha jewel. So these are the practitioners who, and Lama Tsongkhapa continues, recollecting the excellent qualities of the Dharma, you are mindful of those who accomplish it correctly. So those who accomplish it correctly specifically is referring to these Arya beings, those who have come to see reality. And they've done so by training their mind precisely as they have been guided. Not thinking that they know what's best for themselves, but taking the advice of those who have already accomplished the paths and following that advice properly. So they are the ones who are accomplishing it correctly. And again, Lama Tsongkhapa concludes with stating his source. That is the intention of the compendium of the Teachings Sutra.
아니마 최유 콜로 고와 좀 냠는 지다와 신지 소소 검잡아네 이제 디 만중에 그래야 땡땡 더 투그레 셈베게 땡해바 띵네 예바 이리 초kon절라 접수도 연다 되네 나 되네기 안다 기둥고 저게 되네기 냠는 제발에 기둥고 땡땡 로 땡땡 제기리 셈바디 이체들이야 그래서는 기둥고 저세디 상이유 송시비 최되는 냠는 조어지인 파베 가서 조어지리 조어리 코로나주의 냠내진도 코로나주의 규례 고든 날람진 규례에 냠묘여봐 산디 네 코로나주 냠는 요래 제사 되지 가지고 로체 발이야 마추와 마노와 다다지 투그레 셈비게다 이식해야 돼 donda 기준 거죠 최고실 이식해야 돼. 탑투그레 셈비 이식해야 돼. 기준 거죠. 근데 로 제기레 셈비 이징에 받딩네 해야 돼. 도시네 금전 상이기 구소 투소 연전 하고 위 토네 금전 디토네 삼다제 안최 거죠. 접수조다다 기준 거죠. 접수조다 지송도와
Yeah, you can see from the length of presentation how much time was dedicated to each of the three jewels that Lama Tsongkhapa has emphasized the need to reflect on the qualities of the Buddha jewel. Because it's through reflecting deeply on the qualities of the Buddha jewel that will lead to a deep, heartfelt certainty in the Buddha jewel. From that, then trust in the very teachings that the Buddha gave will arise, recognizing that the Buddha taught the complete and unmistaken path, the path that he himself had cultivated within, and therefore was talking from his own unmistaken experience. And he was doing so because of the qualities of his great compassion, qualities of his exalted wisdom, and so forth, the qualities of a Buddha. Therefore, by having reflected well on the qualities of the Buddha jewel, deep trust in the Dharma jewel arises. And with this will come the recognition the Buddha was once ordinary like me. By training in the way he was guided, he cultivated the Dharma jewel within him, and thereby was able to share the Dharma of Scripture. And sharing that, those who followed it well gave rise to the Dharma of realization. And that many of them are included now in the Sangha jewel. Those who have cultivated the Dharma as guided and have come to achieve true paths and true cessations. And many of them abide in our world, showing that the Dharma is still alive and flourishing, and its accomplishment is possible. As long as one does so in the way guided, one will then develop these unmistaken qualities within oneself. So in this way, we see from the presentation from Lama Tsongkhapa how through reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha and developing a certain and heartfelt trust in the Buddha, from that will come a deep trust in the Dharma jewel and the Sangha jewel. And in this way, you'll have arrived at the main point of going for refuge.
Under the Gyumchen Gyapsu Chodangi, Joyali, Gyumchen Samdine Samdani, Gyapsu Chogore, said the Chihanda Bidu, Dana Sumaji. And Niba Kabra Shebani, that Kabra Shebukone Gyapsu Choa said, Sungor, Didi Duanima, Duina, Palotomic, Duana, Sonshekedi, the Sarachiza, Adene, Duane, Juma, Dar, Conjosum, non-pension Kabra Shin, Gyapsu Choa was. Duina, Conjosum, non-pension Kabra, how go it and Gyapsu Choadi.
So now, the presentation on refuge is divided into the causes of going for refuge, which we completed a couple of months ago. Based on that, the objects to which one goes for refuge. And then the second and the third outline was the way one goes for refuge. There we are still in this third outline, having looked at the qualities of the three jewels. And now we come to the next three subpoints of the way you go for refuge. So the second is understanding the distinctions. And here Lama Tsongkhapa continues, going for refuge by way of understanding the distinctions. As it is apparent from the compendium of ascertainments, you go for refuge aware of the distinctions among the three jewels.
And the conjunction non-pinching Kabra Shibukone Gyapsu Choa, conjunction non-pinching said, Sanju Conju, the Captain Bobo. Then getting going to get to be a daro. The next church going to get more said, do send the Kabra Hago in a capsule to Gandhi, that they did it, and that is in man to Tarmo shoots at it.
This has been covered well before, where one recognizes the Buddha jewel as being the founder teacher, the teacher, the teacher of the Dharma in our world. And the Dharma jewel is the actual refuge, the true paths and true cessations, or what is the actual protecting refuge, what actually protects one from suffering, is the cultivation of the Dharma in our own mind. And then the Sangha jewel are our companions on our spiritual journey, those that accompany us, that guide us, that are our companions on our spiritual journey. So this has been covered well already.
Now, and the Kilambe when they get to us, Sangela, Japton Bobo, Chue. Jap Mue, Ketun La, Jap to be a Darosu, Sunyu, Kone, Japso Joa, de Dua Geshe Chunga Daros. Sanje on. Geshin Chunga Daros, Dua Geshin Chunga Daros.
So again, the outline of the way to go for refuge. First was looking at the qualities of the three jewels. Then the next was understanding the distinctions. And now thirdly, going for refuge by way of commitments. Lama Tsongkhapa writes, as is apparent from the commentary on the Vinaya Sutra, you go for refuge in terms of considering the Buddha to be the one who teaches the refuge, the Dharma to be nirvana, which is the actual refuge, and the Sangha to be companions who help you accomplish the refuge.
Under the another decision, Shiva and Chibarore, as Sangi said, the Captain Bobore, Senada, Captain Bobo, the Sangi, as a Pakele, then Capmue did that, Choconchu, Chesada, Capmue Choconchu, the Rangular, Cortini, Gula, Giadu, and then the Cortina, Zoya, the Numo, Pompe, Pompa, Cortini, Gula, Giadu, and the Koyodon, the Jogore, Capmue, the Choconchu, said the Killian Baje. A giving go to the Jap to be a Tarore, Casanzu and Yamin GB Cabli, answered chicken, Lodunche and the chicken, raw chicken, that giving go to race and killing, do say killing between the Japs of Joanza, and do shin to a Geshe and to soon your rest is not another in the Chibaro check, because some down on the dresses and Midam, Chibacha.
The meaning is again, as presented previously, that the Buddha jewel is the founder teacher, the one who teaches the refuge. The Dharma jewel, which is that of the true cessations, which is the abandonment of the afflictions together with their seeds, attained through cultivating true paths. And that is the actual refuge. And then the Sangha jewel are our guides, our companions, are those who teach us and instruct us. So the meaning is, as has been presented before, really these are just different approaches, different ways to think about the topic.
네 건조숨 코나 접수 진지 대다다 미팀베 템바솔라 접수 미진바오스.
Then the fourth sub-outline here, which is going for refuge by not advocating other refuges. Having understood the superiority and inferiority of Buddhist and non-Buddhist teachers, teachings, and students respectively, you consider the three jewels alone to be a refuge and do not consider teachers and so forth who are incompatible with them to be a refuge.
Dela loba namjiside dela lobna di sanji gi sonche bi chue del tembi temba de la tu so nyamne jeba na ane di cho yaga di sada ndi chi choman di di jinan di le khabar yorse di yadu gi khabar choman shi ha ko aje dina ha ko ne sanji konju gyamne konju sumna gyapsu jimba de da sanji konju sumna gyapsu tu be gyapsu jingo gore es jingis ane jezada 대다의 시행비 대다의 미딘비 된발라다 상기기 손셰비게 다와당 안에 냠내 림바단 제보다 미딘바에 대라 안에 접수 미진바 접수 미로아데 안에 캐브러시 비고네 접수 들어와셔야 돼. 셴도 미마웨고네 접수 들어와셔야 돼. 셴도 미마웨고네 접수 들어와셔야 돼. 미마와 셴 말라바사 미마 셴도 미마선 상기래 접수 된딜래 접수 메시지 두신 디스차죠.
Having understood the superiority and inferiority of Buddhist and non-Buddhist teachers. So this word, correctly translated as teachers, is usually written with an uppercase T, in that it refers to founder teachers. It's a specific word. So the founder teacher, like in the case of Buddhists, that of Buddha Shakyamuni. So it really refers to the founder teachers, having understood the distinction between them and the Buddha, as well as the teachings that they gave, and then those who, both from the time of that founder teacher to the present day, the difference in their students. You consider the three jewels alone to be a refuge and do not consider teachers and so forth, again, the founder teachers and so forth, who are incompatible with them to be a refuge. So the other term to explain is that of being incompatible. So this then will refer to where their views are incompatible with that of Buddhists, that those are not views to cultivate or to live in accordance with or to have influence on. Likewise, if they have any conduct or behavior or practices that a teacher guides their students to accomplish, these we should refrain from if they are incompatible with the teachings of the Buddha. Lama Tsongkhapa continues, as for the difference between the two sets, the difference between the teachers is that the Buddha has eliminated all faults and has completed the excellent qualities, while other teachers are the opposite to that.
ane tuinpiki kebara shibi kone, kebara du shimju cheya du kala, ane sangye se di nyomo bakcha dan jeba pangpiki, ane gyun chamche dan jawa re. Yunde ane masangwa me ba chasang yundan zoba re es, chasang du shin yundan zoba, du sida sangye yundan diri es.
So the difference between Buddhists and non-Buddhists comes down to the difference in their founder teacher, and therefore the resulting teachings and the students accomplishing those teachings. And the primary difference, or to put it in a succinct way, the difference between the founder teacher, Buddha Shakyamuni, and those of other religions is that the Buddha has eliminated all faults and completed all excellent qualities.
Then Shenji Dunban Dile Doba is the Sangye Jumne Dile Shenbigeda, Jika, Chen Lamdun, Yamlek Jimbatun, Dumba Tigeda, Together Nambale Shen Soda, Dene Sangye Jumne Jesu Mayan, but the Nigga Dumba, that Church Dumbale Shen. All this one in Dile Doba is the Sangye and then Dinashing Control Yomare such.
And other teachers, other founder teachers, not having developed all good qualities and therefore could not abandon all faults, or express it the other way, not having abandoned all faults and therefore could not develop all good qualities, are the opposite to what the Buddha is.
Jisanda Sangye le Gyun Gunzi Yundan Hamje Dembare, Sangye le Shenbu Dumba Kasori, Tatin Chulu Shenyu Dumba Tikilia, Sangye le Dubu Yundan Yomare Seshedi. Nga nangba sangye chisu jamba yin, konzo net nangba le sangye lo re sibe, jik ko nga zuki yang jik chok shen go to ne, ane di cheba rebe sin diya ma re je. Diya ma re si. Ane jik oda jik da sangye shu shingo konzo jik dile doba re, be konzo le yunde yo ma se pa, ma be jik ko me de danji dine cheba re diya ma re je.
This particular point, so the fourth in this outline on the way to go for refuge, needs to be understood clearly, because it's certainly possible to misunderstand and therefore create some harm. Here, one should be very aware of one's attitude towards those of other religions or those of no religion. We use reasoning to distinguish differences, to distinguish reasons, but we should not then, from having used reasons to distinguish differences, to then feel a sense of superiority and to look down on others, to have a sense of discrimination between ourselves and others, a partisan approach, or an approach which criticizes others, looks down on them. That would be an error. Certainly one uses one's intelligence to look at factual differences, but that should not then lead to a sense of superiority and as seeing the others as inferior. That is a mistake.
Izandan ane gane reyes na sosuge tarbadan tamji kembi goba torbadeli ya nyamlingi rimbadi de ma do shede shimjuji sangyi songshaba na konzu tumba shanda de songdani le sosuge shimjuji sheba chiyadu da jizan da tawi thone sheba na rang chesen dasin marik bade pangu gure di ma pana ane di pabala dame ba to be sherap to dame to sherap de kombatine tingin zin rupshineru dame to sherap kombalatine nyoma ba pangu gure esa sangyi di songshayarwa na tumba shanda de gi kansa se da yore se killing gorma da yo mares killing ma jiza da me ba to be sherap yo marwa e baza jiza de za da me ba to be sherap yo mar killing ma jiza tawi chane sangyi so de 다음에 또 비셔랍 소물에 제가 다음에 또 비셔랍 공부할 때는 이제 말하는 주기를 다신의 방법으로 해서 두신의 랑하는 주기를 연모기에 기시디 아니 가서 랑 제세랑 다도 좀 다신들의 기유도 제가 니네 개발자 상식이 다신 이 로시에 디방고에 디방발에 님보 다음에 또 비셔랍 세대 다음에 공부를 디 공부할 때는 아니 방고에 손손샤바디 디 템바레샤 선비 소소게 디 내가 니제 지사다 데레 템바 샨다게다 다 여버 소마 인자 다음에 또 비셔럽디 민두와 고메 민두 매바자 안디 다음에 다신데 방투에 민두와 선비기 소수기 내가 니제 얘네 상이 유출이야 상기를 계속 두고 해야지 캐버십 도시네 마도 난줄에 아고 나고 말 난주 나고 있으니 디네 샹고 셰바다 콘주 싱고 말 콘주 배 싱고 말선 마베셔 디네 가야 말 소수기 콘주기 손비 템포 그런 손비 따위 남샤다 남유 좌가 누치 제바시 심주체를 소수기 상기기 예 손외디 덴바의 연제 통화제 안니델이야 아주 생각수 좋아해서 현대 미마와세디 현대 미마외군에 접수 좋아하세 현래 균주에다 통조다 되는게 미제바서 그러네 미제바로 시작으로 그래서 되는게 한 디바라들 지게 투에게 내가 되는자 디 된배다 나한테 시행세다 되는게 상고하다 통조다야다 되는게 돈에 말해서 수식에 따위 남자 상기 손셔바다 그런 손셔배도 제심규지 제가도 상기 손바데 그런 윤den통 윤대도디 덴바도 될때는 도시네 접수를 해시래.
As someone engaging in the reflections of refuge, one reflects on the remarkable qualities of the Buddha, recognizing that he and he alone has taught suffering right down to the subtlest levels and the very causes of those suffering. No one else has taught that. He has also taught the complete and unmistaken method by which we can gain freedom from suffering and its causes. No one else has taught that either. No other teacher has identified the ignorance of self-grasping at all, let alone the wisdom realizing selflessness. These are unknown presentations in traditions other than those of the Buddha. In fact, other traditions universally accept a self. And accepting that there is a self, an inherently existent self, there is no interest, no need to investigate selflessness. So this presentation from the Buddha, that the ignorance of self-grasping is a wrong consciousness and the root cause of all suffering, is unique to the Buddha. So too is his presentation on the various causes that need to be accumulated in order to develop the wisdom realizing selflessness to the degree that we can eradicate the ignorance of self-grasping. All of this is unique to the Buddha. So reflecting in this way leads to an even more powerful, stable refuge because our trust in the Buddha becomes even stronger. Our determination to cultivate these good qualities within also grows. So within that presentation, we recognize the difference between our founder teacher and those of other religions. But there's no reason, there's no scope even for a feeling of superiority. There's no reason to inflate this non-existent self. Likewise, there's no reason to deprecate, to look down on others, because this too will lead to this feeling of superiority. That is baseless. So this needs to be understood very carefully, so as not to make an error here.
나는 개발 파도리에스 나는 전달을 지바로리 개발 파도리에스 나는 뜀바 셴바니 점낸 켜라 겹수치스 겹치바스 데지리도 셴나케 규명하라 윤된텐스 시당스.
The Lama Tsongkhapa quotes from Praise of the Exalted One. Having abandoned the other teachers, Blessed One, I go to you for refuge. If they ask me why, it is because you have excellent qualities, but no faults.
이사람 다니 뜀바 셴바니 켜라 점낸 켜라 겹수치 세데다 당아 아니 지게 뜀바 상예 결혼리 셴비기 내 뜀바 파리아 콘줄리아 겹수 두메서 다니 뜀바 셴바니스 단 상예 점낸이 결혼리아 겹수치 겹수두이 당에 겹된 바바 상예 결혼리에서 결혼리 겹수두이에서 왔다 생기디.
In the first two lines, the meaning of what's above is presented. Above in this topic, having abandoned the other teachers, Blessed One, I go to you for refuge. So here it's been made very clear that one goes to refuge to the Buddha and the Buddha alone.
And the Jili do Shena Q, Gumingala Yundi Density, the Jili does Gumdagaresina, Corona, Dumba Shella Jasso, Pajas Marachi, Jumden Kura Japs Drogo, Gumdagaramna, Q Gun Gumingalas, Corona Gun Hamjedan, Bangsawarish Guminus, Cheda Yundin Tada Temparish, Yundin Tada Temparisha, Yun Tamji Seva, Yundin Tada Temparish, the Gumsen Jelangi, Corona Japs to Inso.
And the verse concludes, if they ask me why, it is because, and here comes the clear reason, you have excellent qualities but no faults. So through developing these excellent or perfect qualities, all faults have been eradicated. And conversely, through the eradication of all faults, all perfect qualities or excellent qualities could shine through. This is the reason why the Buddha is a suitable refuge.
The Dumba Shanla just Mudu, Gumzagare Senata, Gumzen the Chili to say Gumzen the Shora, Chili to say the Gare Lamna, Modi Shengi Shulula, Jida Namsamba, Deta, Sibutin, Modi Shundilma, Chik Tablam Tarbatoi, Tablam Timbu Shundel Padu, Chik, Shimju Jevena, and Karangi, Nam Timba Nashin Talam di Minus or Dakajele, Jida Namsamba Deta.
In that short verse, what one sees is that the reason for going to refuge to the Buddha is, rephrase that. So what one sees in that short verse is that one goes to refuge to the Buddha based on reasons, not just because this is what one does, but because of reasons. It's not a reasonless act, that of going for refuge. It should be done based on reasoning. And then quotations continue. The more I think about the other non-Buddhist textual traditions, so this is referring to where one has looked at the presentations in other religions on how to gain liberation from suffering. If they have a presentation on samsara, they'll have a presentation on how to gain liberation or freedom from suffering. So having looked at that,
Deneki Dumba Shanda, Sunjigana, Devatam, Devajana, Devatimbuchina, Dea Chigia Tabato Seda, and then the Conchugia Jindu, the Sungurua, and the Aji, Yankashinalia, Yamlen Jimbar, Sumba, Yamlen Chiore, Rangi, in the home Yamlen Chiting is engineer to Gore, said Dick Yamlen Jimba thinking, Ya, Dami, Namsheme, but Dayo, Sumba, Dami, Matimbaze, and that's in the Bantu Medus. She said, Dineza. Sanji Kurong Tsongkhapa Nashi Minus, Edanta, Deta Kula, Dagi, Simdi Debergu, say Kurongi did the Dineza, Kurongi, Songshipi, Don Chetil Park, Gumsen in the Chatan, Yevanza, Denigi, Engi, Semdiga, Kurolia, Debergu, Kurongi Cholia, Japsuro, to sit there, Debale Song Sachi, Sungwa.
These textual traditions will have been taught by the founder teachers of these other religious traditions. And there, the result of having heard these teachings from other traditions, read their texts, is to recognize that, yes, they have some good qualities in there, perhaps the presentation on how to develop stable, powerful, calm abiding, but they have some major flaws. For example, asserting that there is a self. So through this, through one's general knowledge, one's knowledge more broadly than just that of the Buddha Dharma, one's trust in the protector, the Buddha, develops and grows further.
Deta Tamji Kimba Mimbada, Sange Kuron Mimbigida, Dumbigi Conso, Sonshipi, Naloya, Timja Shida, Semlia, and Jige, Ajele, Yomo Bataja, Bantuyagi, and Jik Mindu Chesa doesn't marry body, by she doesn't marry body, Mababa, Ina, and doesn't D Wangi, Anzukula, Yomo Yeje, and Yomo Koala, Ungure, says the Dineza, and Dinigi, Dumba Currently. shenbigi da dinigi yende tempati tongminu saji tanda diridwa. Chasangde.
The final verse that Lama Tsongkhapa quotes here: their mental states are ruined by faulty tenets of those who lack omniscience. With ruined thinking, they do not see the faultless teachers, not even you. So here, for those who are the students of the founder teachers of other religions, who follow their textual traditions, so linking to the above two verses, they, because the teachings have errors in them, these students cannot abandon their afflictions, because they cannot abandon the root of those afflictions, the root cause, the ignorance of self-grasping. And therefore, their mental states are ruined by faulty tenets of those who lack omniscience, who ruin thinking. With ruined thinking, they do not see the faultless teachers, not even you.
And nala andu garusungusne delia manjuki gula kemne konshu sumla japsu tu kemre tembuji ayala anan dishi kesinyamada sanji kuson tu yende ni gidu chen samdang gore chi chi donsi samdang we tone samdang ne kuson tu yende ni ha ko yodu dine kemre tembu chagri esa chixi and that din ma shue dia anchi baro she that no samdana de le mido dang kebaro che 그래서 상예라 구순투 연진 대용도 연대 통유도 다 상예 송비 최유코로고 최유코로고의 최송되는 냠는 제바는 소식이 상예 송바 나시니 곰 냠는 제제 아니 곰바이나 되는 거대나 남되는 게 그렇게 투불이 선배기다 기여도 되는 코로의 동안을 좋아해 세비 이치 얘기를 했어야지 되는시 지송도 나양 마삼다나 지리야 아니니 야 장기 상기 템바 템블나리아 템바 먹고유베 나네 다 권어주기 템비고 슝들에 봐 아니 신규체에도 아니 상기기 지게 상기도 연구원세 연구원의 템바 그래서는 운동실에서 제자다 연대 템바도 연대 다음에 따와다 땡디게 남샤디게 다 상기기 송바인자 디르레 테버도 디중전 템바레샤 셈베 동에도 네 상기를 접수도하디 용거래서지 되네기 이나 다티소 미 지금 소수게 타르바 투비 된다라 타르비고 뭐 람냠랭이 집 림발의 금제 삼당여도 이게 태바의 미티비 토네 상기기도 소수 태바의 금제 템바레셔스비 느낌 상기를 접수 좀마다 셴래 접수 메스 중국어마다 아직 신체 지금 좀 타기 여와셔 등 어떤 나바 말에 아주 나바에서 초링이 토네 안 거절 접수 좀 메스야 돼 내야 말에 안 건전 아주 약보려 건전 약보 말해서 되는 통조다에 되는 접수 뭐 넣어줘야 돼 말해서 그래서 금제나 탈로 토야래 남념력이 좀 금신 제바 지어도 상기의 순셔버도 덴바 통제 안들려야 도심 접수 거래서 되는 게 이제다다 누시네 금제 심주제 제바 제지 내수되게 하고 요도 되는 점로되기 덴보 상기를 접수 주게 점로다 철라 접수 주게 점로 행견을 접수 주게 점로되기 템붕에 반여바 중국에 전다지 당하지 템부야야 전다 두수 제바체 삼당국에서 송월
Having concluded this outline on the way to go for refuge, and we summarize it in brief by saying that the way to develop stable faith in the three jewels as our protecting refuge is to reflect in the way that has been presented. So having generated the causes for going for refuge, fear of the lower realms, you then reflect on the qualities of the three jewels, in particular the Buddha jewel, to develop that stable faith that the three jewels is where one should turn to gain protecting refuge. In particular, your time needs to be dedicated to reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha jewel. And this we discussed extensively last time. Because it's through reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha jewel that, as we saw at the start of tonight's teaching, that through reflecting on the qualities of the Buddha jewel, one will come to develop deep, heartfelt trust in his teachings, the Dharma jewel, because his teachings are a presentation of how he has lived a countless stream of lives cultivating the qualities that led to the development of true paths and true cessations. Thereby, our heartfelt trust in the Dharma jewel will come about, independence on our trust in the Buddha jewel. So too will our trust come about in those advanced practitioners who have developed the Dharma jewel within themselves and are thereby rapidly attaining, becoming Buddhas themselves, to the Sangha jewel. Through reflecting in this way, we develop an ever more stable trust in the three jewels, where this is so indispensable for all of us, is it's through having stable trust that we'll be open and receptive to the teachings. And we'll embrace those teachings, not set them aside for our various responsibilities or other things that interest us, but recognize this precious opportunity is finite. Now is the time to embrace these teachings, to cultivate them within me. And everything else that is a distraction, to let that go. And here to embrace these teachings. Because this is what the Buddha himself did, and all the Sangha jewel are doing. Therefore, I can do so. And then the final part that we looked at tonight was, as we recognize the qualities of the Buddha jewel, we will be, the Buddha and his teachings and his followers, we will very clearly see the differences in other philosophies, whether religious or not. Here, guard your mind. Be very sure that as one develops trust in the Buddha, one emulates the Buddha and the great practitioners, and therefore guards our mind from feeling distant, looking down on others, but rather like our role models, to value all beings, and should rather, even those who are followers of other religions or philosophies or none, to feel closer to them, and not to identify more as my special group and the rest. So this is something to guard oneself against. But the training in refuge, this is an indispensable foundation, as we saw earlier tonight, that without this foundation, the paths will not be attained. We will not be able to cultivate them within. So I encourage you to meditate on refuge well and repeatedly over a sustained period until it becomes stable.
Geshe Thubten Rabten Yakures, Jazan Kushep Shore, Chigi, Kushep, and do Shores. That's also Rangi Yamin Todish, that Deva Sosu, Lam Sosuke Sangi, Cholia, Lam de Yamin Chores. That didn't get Chulu Chazana Manchu and the Jamni said, Jamzi and the Yamanchi to Yobaris, on do series, to small what in Zadan, Jisa, that it is Sangi and the Chunzu in the Mindu said, but maybe to go again in Iris.
This final bit that outline that we looked at, this is something that's very dear to His Holiness. So I encourage you to really watch your mind and ensure that you do have a genuine, respectful attitude towards other religions and their teachers and followers. This is important. Not to develop an attitude of looking down on others or feeling of superiority. Rather recognize that other religious traditions have brought over centuries and still continue to do so much benefit to beings. So that alone is reason to be respectful. So our faith may be in a particular direction, but that does not need for us to exclude others in terms of having respect for them. Our faith may be in one direction, but our our respect should be far broader. And through very quick analysis, we can recognize the benefits that these religious traditions still bring to their followers, because we can see the benefits that comes to their own communities. And often that benefit is not just expressed to their own communities, but to general society, or those who are not necessarily directly part of their communities. So we can see in this way that other religious traditions bring benefit to their followers as well as to those who are not their followers.
알람 저기 출로 차상길 하나나야 지금 마페아 표시가 말이야. 저도 차상하나 줘야 돼. 제가 여름 지게 같이 지금 하나 시험보다 주시다 번째다 차상의 시험으로 줘야 되는데 줘. 차상의 진 출로 레신디게 좀제 소총지소 주루젠 레더죠 도치는 tunde 참 못난 거 되는 뭐 못난 거 제사다 출로 tunde 배 예심을 해셔서 제사다 출로 tunde 가지고 출로를 견주 출로를 토하는 가지고 단다음에 민족다 뭐 강아 뭐 수요도 제사도 퇴출을 tunde 해야 되게 예심을 쉬우래 해서 경험치기 에디나 갈롭디 나지 이렇게 디던다를 경험치게 되 공부 조시에는 이 출로 라친 되게 마보님도 주시대 나 마보 출로 라친 차상 님도 좀 주시는 이게 도신 tunde 도시 뭐 나요래.
Interreligious harmony is something very close to the heart of His Holiness, and is something he's dedicated extensive time and effort to over many decades. And you would have also seen the pictures of His Holiness attending temples and mosques and churches and shuls. Probably he's been to places of worship of every religion, every major religion in our world. And he genuinely shows them respect, doesn't follow their religions, but he respects the good that they do. And this is because he very clearly sees that the various religions of our world are a means by which suffering in our world is reduced. And through interreligious dialogue and harmony, ever more suffering by various religions, it will be reduced. So this is something that's very dear to his heart. Therefore, we should ensure that our mind is in accordance with this heart wish of his. And then, thank you. We can conclude there for this evening. Thank you. But if you have questions, then feel free to ask. Then tomorrow. Thank you.